Hey everyone, Fucker Supreme here. I decided that I wanted to do a little reaction video in preparation. Well, one, I wanted to make some content because who doesn't like some fucking content, right? And two, what the fuck am I about to say? I wanted to do an Eldenring Boss ranking video because there are some more thoughts that I want to do in continuing the Let's Play that I've been doing. Beating Elden Ring as Demo Man, and I know I haven't really released the next part of that, and I apologize for that. A lot of shit has been going on in my life. Kind of the classic line as to why I haven't been making videos, but I do have a lot of stuff in the works. I can't give you a date for when that's going to come out, but regardless, this is something quick and fast that I could do. So I decided to do an Elden Ring boss ranking video from critterfarts. Yeah. I thought that would be pretty fun, so let's just get right into it, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Shall we? Let's do this shit.
Elden Ring's got a ton of boss fights. I mean, it's even got more bosses than the entire Dark Souls trilogy combined. Now, if you know me, I prefer quality over quantity, and let's just say Elden Ring doesn't really agree with me there. Now, let me specify some things for this ranking. First off, I'm only going to rank bosses that I consider important. For example, most bosses on this list give you an achievement for beating them, or are just required to beat the game. The point is, I'm not going to rank a boss like Soldier of Godric, because there are like a billion bosses in Elden Ring, and I'd probably rot to death if I were to make that video. Finally, following the same rules as I did in my last video, by the way, you should watch that video if you haven't already, in order to rank the bosses in the most objective way possible, I'll be playing as a basic knight with just
Did YouTube... Bro.
the sword.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought YouTube fucking changed the space bar to pause the video. I was about to be pissed. I was about to be, oh boy, I would have been fuming, bruh.
And shield. No one-shotting bosses as a mage. No.
First off, I want to say that I think this is going to be a pretty good review. I did kind of skim a little bit of it, so I know some parts of the video. So I know where a couple things are placed, but honestly, like Elden Ring Boss, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been replaying Elden Ring in preparation for Erdtree. And there's so many, man, just so many fucking things that I want to say about Elden Ring. I think I will make a formal review about it sometime. So it's always interesting to see different people's opinions on bosses. Yeah. Also, I have not fought literally every single boss in Elden Ring, so some things I may not be able to comment on, but I do know enough about them to, give you whatever. I'll give you my fucking opinion. Let's just get into it.
Overpowered bleed, rivers of blood, double Uji Katana, twin blade seppuku bullshit. It's the worst.
One thing I do want to say about the philosophy of what is like the correct way to play Elden Ring, I think is kind of interesting, right? Because I'm in the camp that everything in the game that they've allowed us to use, like basically the shit that is just in the game, I can't draw the line personally of whether or not abusing okay, that's not true. Certain things I think in the game of people just abusing, just like critterfart said about, abusing rivers of blood, seppuku bullshit or whatever, that is kind of a lot, and I definitely don't think the game makers intended for the player to be able to one-shot bosses. I totally agree with that sentiment, but I also kind of want to say that I don't think that if you beat the game only using magic or only using summons, that therefore means that your version of you playing the game and beating it didn't count. Everyone has their own way to play these games, and I do think that people should be more forgiving in understanding that not every single person is a fucking challenge runner, and not every single person's gonna like SL1 the game using like no items, SL1, fucking no rolls or some shit, only using unarmed fists or some dumb shit like that. If you're that type of person, that's great, and honestly, those people are fucking awesome. Challenge runners for Elden Ring are dope, but not everyone kind of identifies with that. Yeah, the gargoyles. Yeah, absolutely. This boss is fucking dog shit. This boss is like, honestly, one of the worst things I think I've ever had the displeasure of playing in this game. It's really bad.
I'll start my list off with a pretty reasonable take here. If any of you have fought the gargoyles with no summons, you'll understand why I consider this boss to be absolutely horrible. These two guys are good contenders for the top.
Shit, even with summons, this boss is not very good. Honestly, because the other side of the coin on that is that summons make the vast majority of fights too easy. So they just become boring. I think any way you slice it, this boss is terrible, but let's hear what he has to say.
Top 5 worst bosses in any FromSoft game. They check off all the fatal flaws that any boss shouldn't have. Their visual design isn't appealing at all, they aren't fun to play against, and it's just too unforgiving. You'd expect that Miyazaki and FromSoft were able to learn from all their past mistakes with duo bosses, since Elden Ring is supposed to be their magnum opus, but they literally
You would think that, but clearly not.
throw everything out the window when they were making these two fucks. It's like if they took the gargoyles from Dark Souls 1 and curb stomped them while pissing and shitting on their bodies. Not to mention, the valiant gargoyles are just two rehashed enemies slammed inside a shoddy arena. Let me say this though, when the fight first starts, it's actually not that bad. I'd say it's a mediocre boss at best, but it's definitely not horrible. But once you get the first gargoyle to around half...
I would disagree with that point. I never really liked the gargoyles. I don't hate them, but I feel like there are a lot of enemies in Elden Ring that I kind of hate fighting because they're spammed, and gargoyles are one of them. It's them, the tree spirits, and the tree sentinels to a lesser degree. At least with the tree sentinels, of those three groups of like reused enemy types, the tree sentinels have like a more interesting moveset, but the gargoyles kind of piss me off because they just keep doing Omega Ninja bullshit, and it's just I don't know, man. I've never really liked the gargoyles. I don't hate them. They're not terrible, but in this fight, they're absolutely just horrible to fight. It's, oh my god, nigga, like, oh.
He spawns in his twin blade friend. Well, you might think, oh, it won't be that bad. It'll just be like the demon princes from Dark Souls 3, right? That would be great, right? But guess what? They found out a way to fuck it up. First off, they fucked up the...
Oh man, the demon princes are good. The demon princes are everything the gargoyles should have been, but just like with a little bit more, sprinkle a little bit of a Tony Sheremoni's fucking Cajun Creole sauce or whatever the fuck that, you know, that spice mix. That's what they should have been, but they obviously didn't do that.
See, normally in duo fights, you have one enemy be aggressive towards you, hitting you with melee attacks while the other guy is in a more passive state, maybe shooting a slow range attack at you. Well, in this fight, I swear, these two guys just don't give you a break. They are extremely aggressive and even double team you at times, which I think shouldn't be allowed. And about that slow range attack I was talking about a second ago, well, that ranged attack is a hard to spot area of effect attack which takes your health down from virtually any direction. And get this, it poisons you too. Like, what were they genuinely thinking? Even if a gargoyle isn't using this attack at a far distance, one could just randomly pop this attack right in front of you as the most annoying get off me attack. If they had made this attack only be able to poison you, it wouldn't be that bad.
Absolutely.
They aren't stingy with this attack either. It's not like it just comes out a couple times per fight. They legit spam this attack. This leads...
Bro, speaking facts there. Honestly, these motherfuckers literally never stop spitting poison. And it sucks that it's pretty much invisible half the time. There's a lot of shit that happens in duo fights and like even multi-fights in Elden Ring where if you're just not paying attention to something off screen, you're just instantly gonna get fucking capped. But this one is like honestly the most annoying because the poison spreads across like damn near the entire arena, and fuck. He's already said it. You don't even need my fucking like comment on it.
100% deserves to be the worst on this list.
No argument with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's another example of a boss I just despise. Fire Giant is a boss that many people dislike, and rightfully so. It's just some big...
Also, sorry if you hear a lot of sniffling. I have a little bit of that coffin short, pollen allergy.
When you first enter the boss arena, the Fire Giant attacks you with his little potlet thingy well in his first phase. And then once you start fighting him, you start to realize that he's going to play out like a shit boss, and he definitely does. A minute or two during the first phase, you'll break his ankle bracelet and expose his weak spot. Then after even more mindless bashing and him rolling around every couple of seconds, you finally get him into his second phase. This is what I hate about giant fights. The whole gameplay loop is just spamming R1 and waiting until the giant stomps or runs away. It's just so boring to me.
It sucks too, because I honestly legitimately like the Fire Giant's design. I just hate everything about the fight. And this isn't one of those fights. There are some fights that like legitimately piss me off that I'm just like, I absolutely hate it. And this is one of them, but this is kind of like one of those fights that like I do it so much and it takes so long to just beat the fucking Fire Giant that I just get tired and I'm like, I just can't wait for it to be over, you know? There's kind of like, for me, there's like fights that are like so fucking annoying and piss me like, nigga, it gets me so fucking heated that I'm like, I can't do this, like it's unbearable, I need to take a break. And then the ones that I'm like, I'm so mad, I'm actually done being mad. You seen that meme where like you get so mad that you just
He gets access to the most annoying projectile attacks, AoE get off me attacks, and of course, one-hit kill attacks. Meanwhile, this is all happening while he's rolling around the snow, forcing me to scramble all over the boss arena to get a couple hits off of him. Oh, and what's that? You made one slight mistake? Fuck you, get one-shotted. And now you have to start the whole 5-minute fight again. Again, just like with the last boss, what were they even thinking when developing this boss? Did any of the game testers actually think Fire Giant was a fun boss? How did they—
I have a sneaking suspicion that, like, honestly, the end of Elden Ring was just, like, mostly not tested very well. Because there's just so many bosses and so many things kind of piled on, and the game scaling gets so shitty that it just feels like they just didn't, like... Maybe it was an oversight. That's my speculation, nigga. Like, don't hold me to that. Miyazaki-san. Yeah. It just feels so weird. Also, I will say this. I don't hate the Fire Giant as much as other people. I do think it's a really, really terrible boss fight, and it totally deserves being where it is. I'd even say that it's arguably worse than the Gargoyles in some respects. But it's just one of those things for me that, like, I'm just so bored of the fight, and it pisses me off to that, like, boredom degree, like I just said, that, like, I'm just like, whatever. Also, 9 times out of 10 when I fight the Fire Giant, I'm over-leveled so I can, like, make the fight faster. Because I just don't want to be... Like, my tolerance for things that I perceive as bullshit is so low that, like, I'll just, like, over-level to the point where I'm like, alright, at least I don't have to deal with this for long.
Alright, this one's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an NPC boss fight. You can't really get a good ranking if it's an NPC fight.
Bro, y'all be listening to the tune, bro? You hear that drum and bass in the background? That shit go... Ooh, that shit was crazy. Listen to that shit. Hold on. Let me go back. Hold on.
Alright, this one's pretty self-explanatory.
That shit goes crazy,
I mean, at the end
bruh.
of the day, it's an
That's
NPC
gotta be from, like,
boss
Street
fight.
Fighter
You can't
some
really
shit.
get a good ranking if it's an NPC fight. The reason why this is the worst NPC fight on this list...
I'm honestly surprised that this is even in the fucking ranking. No one ranks NPC fights for the most part, but I think they should, because most of them in Elden Ring are pretty bad. Most of them suck ass.
Is because there's 4 guys you need to beat. 1 at the start, and a triple gank fight at the end. There's 3 dudes, 1 with 2 great axes, 1 who spams magic and death by at you from a distance, and 1 dexterous dude. I don't have anything else to say. It's a pretty bad fight.
Fair enough. Mimic tier? Mimic bear. What is there even to say?
Okay, I know.
Deadass, what is there to say about the Mimic tier fight? This is the cheesiest fight in the game, and I think quality over quantity is totally a fair thing to say. I mean, they didn't need to include this in the fucking game. I know that there is an entire scrapped NPC questline with a Mimic tier as, like, being a questline that was scrapped, and then that Mimic tier was supposed to be the boss fight. Honestly, if they kept that, I don't know why, because the dialogue is there. Pretty much, it was an entire scrap questline for, like, no reason. I don't know why. Maybe they just didn't have enough time to polish it up. And clearly they didn't have enough time to polish it up. Maybe that's why it's not in the game. Maybe they'll add it back in once Erdtree is released. Who knows? But honestly, if they added that entire questline, Mimic tier would be way better just off that alone. It would be way more tragic. But because it's not that, it sucks.
Not really anything special going on here. You can either strip butt booty naked and beat it in like 5 seconds, or just fight it with all your gear on. I don't know any reason why you do that, but you can. Alright, I think that's the last of the NPC boss.
I fight it with all my gear on just because doing the butt booty naked thing, I'm just so lazy I don't want to take off all my shit and then put it back on. Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. Yeah, no, this fight sucks. Me and my homies always clown this fool, bruh, because I love Gideon in the game. Like, I really like his presence. I like his role in the game. He's honestly really, really cool lore-wise. I cannot understand why he was put into the game the way that he is as a boss fight. It's, oh man, it's just so bad. It's so fucking bad. It's just a magic spam fight if you even get to that point. 9 times out of 10 before he finishes his fucking long-ass, like, 800-page monologue that he had prepared that he's been, like, working on for 2.5 months, you just beat him in 2 hits, and it's literally a waste of time. I don't know why he's in the game.
Alright, okay, you knew it was coming. Thankfully, this is the last NPC boss on the list, and I'll be quick. Gideon is literally the 3rd to last boss of the game, and they were kind of just spamming bosses in the Ashen Capital, so this guy came out. He's obviously a humanoid enemy and casts spells that he stole from the previous bosses, which is pretty cool. But other than that, and his cool name, that's pretty much it. He has a relatively small...
Honestly, I do kind of agree with that point. I do like the fact that he does use spells from bosses that you have killed. That's honestly really cool, but it's just not incorporated into the lore very well. It kind of feels like they didn't know what to do. The end game of Elden Ring really feels like they just didn't really know what to do at some points. Like that very, very end, everything from Godfrey onward, well, besides Elden Beast, fine. Everything with the Halleck tree, okay, I guess. So that's not technically a part of the end game, though. It's an optional end game side quest sort of thing. I don't know. The end game of Elden Ring it's really weird to describe now that I think about it. It's really weird. There's some really, really strong points. It's like for every good boss in the end game, there's like an equally shitty or doubly shitty boss. It's really stupid. Really? Wow, that shit is crazy. He put Fortisax all the way down here. Fortisax is interesting. Got the best soundtrack in the game, debatably. A really cool presence of a fight, right? Well, let me listen to what he has to say. I've been pausing a lot.
I know. Some of you might want to kill me right now. Fortisax at number 26 might be very inaccurate. Let me tell you why he's a bad boss and why he frustrates me. Don't get me wrong.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, homie. Let me hear you out real quick. What you about to say?
Though the arena, the music, the boss's visual design, everything about his aesthetics are top tier. True. Right off the bat, the red lightning, death light, and an arena that looks like it came out of a goddamn Van Gogh painting is amazing.
True.
And then the music just goes like...
That shit. Woo! Yoshimikudo. You, sir, were cooking. Honestly, oh my god. Elden Ring soundtrack.
But once you get into the meat of this boss, you realize that it goes over every annoying game design principle in Elden Ring ever. First of all, it's a dragon boss. Don't get me started on these fights in Elden Ring. The only excellent dragon...
True. I already talked about it in my part 1 of my Demo Man, Elden Ring Demo Man fucking challenge run, quote unquote, whatever the fuck it's a, I don't know. Anyway, that video, I mentioned it, but yeah, the dragon fights in Elden Ring, by and large, are all dookie. There's only a couple exceptions. I would put Fortisax on that list. I would not put Fortisax this low personally. And Placidusax is one of my favorite bosses in the whole game. I fucking love Placidusax. But every other dragon boss, am I forgetting any? I might be forgetting a couple that I might also like. But the vast majority of dragon boss fights in Elden Ring are just absolute shit. They're horrible. Like, nigga, they did not need to put these many... Like, we finally get dragons as, like, a consistent presence in a From Software game, and almost all of them are bad.
Second boss FromSoft has ever made was Midir, but I already covered him in the last video.
True.
Second, the fight just has so much bullshit in it that I had trouble...
Fun fact, I've actually not beaten Dark Souls 3 yet. I'm on Midir right now, and I stopped because I was in Japan for a time, and I haven't beaten that fight. But Midir, I actually really, really like Midir, even though I haven't beaten him yet.
The Fortisax fight consists of you just poking at Dragon Feet while he flies across the map, stomps his feet, or just moves his body in the slightest way so you miss your attack. But all this is happening while a continuous strike of red lightning that is barely telegraphed tracks your position 24/7 across the huge arena. What is this? This is horrible. No, don't do this. Stop. This shit is...
I mean, that's fair. Honestly, that's a fair criticism. I still really like Fortisax's fight, despite how chaotic it is. I don't know. I think this is like the one rare example in Elden Ring where the presence of the fight is so good that I can kind of weirdly excuse a lot of the flaws. Also, I've only fought Fortisax once throughout a playthrough because I missed him on another playthrough. Or actually, no, I don't think I even got to him. And I have at least 4 or 5 saves of Elden Ring, but I've only beaten the game once, maybe twice. No, I guess once. Yeah, I've only beaten the game. Yeah, sorry, I've only beaten the game once, but I've gotten to most of the early boss fights multiple times, and I've beaten. Let's see, I've beaten Dark Souls 2. I'm pretty much done with Dark Souls 3, although I haven't beaten Soul Cinder and other stuff. I beat Bloodborne twice. And I have not beaten Sekiro, even though I own the game.
It's one of the most annoying boss attacks ever. So, while dealing with all this dragon nonsense, you gotta stop attacking Fortisax and focus on dodging the shitty little lightning bolt that repeats every 3 seconds. And this lightning attack does not give a single shit if Fortisax is already attacking you. This means that the lightning can lead to situations like this. Like, you see what I mean? I got hit by a normal attack, but since I was stun locked, I had absolutely no way to dodge it.
Well, unfortunately, that's kind of a lot of things in Elden Ring where it feels like there's just a bunch of shit that you can't control. That's true. This sucks. The lightning actually is kind of annoying. I didn't have that big of a deal with it because, like I said, the first time I fought and the only time I fought Fortisax, I was pretty over-leveled, so I was able to kind of beat his health bar down. So I'll probably restructure where I'd put him on a tier list once I fight him again.
The incoming lightning bolt, which is so stupidly infuriating. The only reason, I repeat, the only reason why he's not worse than any of the other bosses on this list so far is because of his overall visuals. That's it. If it were just another dragon, he'd go straight to the bottom. Worse than the goddamn gargoyles.
Worse than the gargoyles is crazy, bro. I don't agree with that shit. But I think he made some. I think he was cooking a little bit. I gotta agree with some of his points.
So much wasted potential was shown here. Imagine a boss this cool, this cinematic, this good of a soundtrack existed. I wonder where I could find a boss like that. Oh wait.
Honestly, I don't even want to fucking talk about the ancestor spirit. This shit, regal ancestor spirit is fucking. Oh man, the boss is so bad. And it's like bad. It's just so boring. Like there's nothing to even talk about. It's so bad.
The Regal Ancestor Spirit is a boss that is so close to being mediocre. It's just on edge of escaping the bad tier of bosses in my opinion. It's just a rehash of
hard cap. This boss is fucking boring and sucks.
The unoriginally,
and it's like this is like the most blatant. Well, maybe not the most, but one of the most blatant reuse of a boss that like why even. Why? Oh, it's regular Ancestor Spirit. Ah, never mind. Well, shit, honestly, it's the same thing. Ancestor Spirit, when you fight the Ancestor Spirit the first time, it's okay. Regal Ancestor Spirit honestly pisses me off because it's just the same boss again, basically. It's annoying. Oh, Renala? Honestly, this is fair. Yeah, Renala's probably the worst.
Every time I fight Renala, I just get depressed. There's so much wasted potential for this fight.
Yeah. Honestly, Renala might be the worst of all the Shard Bearers, I think. For me, too, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think she's the worst of all the Shard Bearers. She's just not a very good fight. When you first fight her for the first time is real cool, and then after that, I just want it to be over. I just don't... It's just not that good of a fight. It's cool lore-wise. I mean, you're not even technically fighting Renala for the second half. You're fighting Ranni's projection of Renala, which is cool in lore, but... cool in lore only gets you so far, you know? Like, come on, bro. Like, I gotta hold him, bro. Like, it's just not that great of a fight.
Other than that, this boss had so much potential to be amazing. But FromSoft yet again made another magic spamming average boss.
I guess one of them had to be the shitty one out of all the Shard Bears. Honestly, I fucking hate the magma worms. I hate them all. I never... These are so boring. I hate them.
We have officially reached optimal levels for the mediocre bosses. No more bosses that I consider to be bad are on the rankings anymore.
I'd put them back. I think these bosses are pretty fucking shitty.
And we'll start off the mediocrity.
It might, honestly, for me, it might a little bit just be the fact that they're spammed so much, and the only continuing gimmick is that they're just spammed in equally more unfightable like places. Like, you fight one in its regular arena, you fight Makar, that one's fine. Then you fight the one on Mount Gilmore, that one's fucking annoying because there's like no space to fight it. Then you fight another one on Mount Gilmore inside of the Rykard's palace, and that place, literally there's no place to stand, and it's just lava. And then there's like a couple more. There's like one in the consecrated snowfield, which pisses me off because it has like infinite health and like absurd damage because it's in the consecrated snowfield, so therefore it has to be stronger. And then there's like one other one somewhere that I can't remember, and that one sucks too.
With a magma worm. He's your basic beast type enemy with large, wide movements and sufficient damage. The semi-interesting thing about Makar is that he has a giant-ass sword. Not every day do you see a giant-ass worm with arms wield a sword that does...
You know, now that I realize that he's out of the bad quote-unquote tier bosses, I'm really interested to see where he's going to put Godskin Duo. We'll see.
AoE attacks. His entire second phase is honestly not that bad, and can be pretty cool sometimes, but that's really all Makar has going for him. The first part of his fight consists of him just clumsily shuffling around while spewing red magma everywhere. These lava puddles are unfortunately pretty annoying. They constantly stun you if you're in them, and good luck if you find yourself directly in the center of one. This boss is the definition of meh.
Fair enough. The Misbegottens are fucking stupid.
But all that doesn't make...
Y'all already saw how I mollywop this motherfucker, bruh. Ain't nothing to say. Wow, Estelle being this low is interesting. I actually kind of like Estelle. Let's see what he has to say.
The way Estelle's visuals flow together is insanely good though. The particle effects look crisp as hell, and the arena and visual boss design is top tier. But with all these visuals, it turns out just to be a mediocre fight again. Estelle loves to hit you with these slow, powerful attacks that create space, and then teleport away with an AoE. Well, you see, that type of boss gameplay loop to me isn't what I like. Estelle makes up for this though by having some cool looking and fun to dodge attacks.
Honestly, Estelle kind of does a lot of the things that Fire Giant does, but at least the room is much smaller and it doesn't take that long to get to him. Wow. I actually used to hate the Dragonkin soldier in Noxtella. I used to hate this boss, but once I've fought him recently, and I actually like him now. He's not that bad.
I know what you might be thinking. Dragonkin Soldier? That fight is fucking ass. Well, I'm talking about the Ice Lightning.
Really? Do niggas actually hate this boss? Why? He's not that fucking bad. He's like, okay.
One. That one is actually alright. Now, obviously the first phase moveset is rather underwhelming, as it's mainly just slow, wide swipes and an occasional AoE ground slam, but once you activate his second phase, the fight actually gets rather intense. He leaps up and does these frost lightning AoE slams, while my frame rate drops to like 15 frames per second, but it still looks amazing. Seeing the spectacle of the Dragonkin fly his fat little body in the air while he chucks an ice lightning spear at you is pretty fun. We're starting to get to the level where bosses actually have interesting overall qualities to them. The Dragonkin Soldier is one of them. That is, of course, the lightning one.
Deadass, why the fuck, can y'all comment, why the fuck do people not like this boss? I guess it's kind of annoying because there's a lot of spam. All the large bosses have like large AoE spam, so I guess that's a fair point. But I don't know, I feel like Dragonkin Soldier, he doesn't have that much health. His shit is pretty easy to like roll through, to predict. He's not that bad. I mean, he's not great. He's okay. I don't know. He's mid boss. I'm not gonna clown him though. That's true. Really, bro? Everyone's got hot takes on their tier list, man. Putting the Red Wolf down here is interesting for sure. Is interesting. I mean, 19 this is out of 27, so I guess he had to go somewhere.
No, over my couple of years of...
I don't know, bro. I kind of like... I used to hate the Red Wolf when I first fought him. I've had a lot of bosses that I've kind of come around on now that I fought them multiple times. Red Wolf is not that fucking bad. I'd put him a bit higher. I'd put him at like 15 or some shit. I don't know. That's hard though. There's a lot of bosses. Maybe he just kind of... Maybe I would put him 19 because there just might be so many other better bosses. We'll see.
Playing Elden Ring, I keep hearing that Red Wolf Radagon is kind of a shitty boss, but from my experience, he's actually not so bad. And for being a wolf, they could have made him look very generic.
Man, I guess I'm a contrarian when it comes to Elden Ring. I don't think this boss is that bad. I think there's way worse bosses than this shit.
Now let's talk about the gameplay, which is unfortunately where some of the problems arise from. Radagon will try and hit you with various attacks from his sword that he just conjures out of thin air, and those attacks are pretty enjoyable. And he also has these various swipes and physical attacks which sort of feel awkward to maneuver around, to be honest.
I honestly don't like a lot of the dog boss fights, but Radagon is kind of a rare one that I do, mostly just because of what he said. These niggas just move so fast. I get it, they're dogs attack very fast, but like, there's something about dog enemies and dog bosses in From Software games that I'm just like, they always feel bullshit when I get hit, because it feels like I just don't ever have enough time to react.
But my main gripe with this fight is him just constantly running and jumping all over the place while he spams that Phalanx Blade attack. This, paired together with the crowded debate parlor, can be an absolute nightmare. You're going crazy, running around the arena and shit, and then you come to a complete stop because one fucking table just stops you. I know it's a very minor gripe, and once the fight goes on...
I would disagree that it's a minor gripe. A lot of boss fights in Elden Ring, maybe not a lot, but some very, very key boss fights are totally fucking ruined by their arenas. Like, that's why I don't like the magma worms by and large, just because half of them, you fight them in pretty much impossible areas. It's frustrating as hell to be able to like perfectly be able to maneuver around the boss's moveset only to get clipped by literal geometry in the map. I'm interested, bruh. He has not put the Godskins. Well, maybe this is just Noble. It looks like
coming in at number 8.
Okay, so it's just Noble. Maybe he's one of those rare fucking like insane asylum victims. Or sorry, not victims. Insane asylum patients that really likes the Godskin duo. Oh boy.
We have what is probably the most obese boss in Elden Ring. I can't believe they got the real Boogie2988 to do the mocap and voice acting.
No, that's what's that fat motherfucker's name? That fat streamer, Cheeto, Cassio? I don't know, whatever.
No, but seriously, this is the wackiest boss design in this game. A fat fucking Redditor noble with a rapier who is wearing skin as armor is one of the most interesting and weirdest things I've ever seen. He's even got attacks that derive from his visual design, like the belly bounce attacks and the rolling attacks. But how does this boss...
I thought Godskin Noble actually isn't fat. Is he actually that fat? I thought it was just like kind of... I don't know. I always thought that like it was kind of what he's wearing that makes him fat, because of like when you put it on as like a player character. I thought that was just the shit that he's wearing, and he's actually skinny underneath that. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid.
Boss hold up gameplay wise? Well, it's alright. And by the Noble's placement, you can tell it's a little worse than its twin counterpart.
Oh boy, I think maybe it's gonna be next. That's interesting that he said that this is worse than the twin fight.
With his rapier. Some of them are easy to...
I don't know. Nah, bro. Nah. I'm gonna have to hold him on that one, bro. This fight is not worse than the fucking duo, bruh. What? Nah.
He's got other attacks like his notorious roll attack, which honestly is what makes him inferior to his counterpart.
Bro,
I have no idea if this issue is specific to me.
The roll is pretty fucking stupid. It's the worst move in his kit for sure. It's like his version of Waterfowl Dance, but it's even more annoying because the tracking on it is so ridiculous. But that's Elden Ring, unfortunately.
In his second phase, the Noble gains a powered-up moveset, with his particularly annoying belly slam attack being used. Its startup animation is so goddamn quick, I refuse to believe anyone can dodge this. The fun part is actually dodge.
Yeah, it definitely feels damn... Honestly, it feels like every fucking like major boss in Elden Ring has like a couple just like damn near nigh unreactable attacks for some reason. And it's fucking annoying, because like, why? Like, come on, From Software. Y'all can make like really intricate, well-designed bosses without having to resort. Like, to me, unreactable shit in From Software games is like taking a pot shot on a nigga with no guard. Like, of course you're gonna get that. You're gonna knock him out, bro. He's not prepared. Bro, how is the duo getting away, bro? He can't keep getting away with it, bruh. Niall's a good fight, though. I actually really like Niall.
Niall is an irritating boss to talk about. Is it Neil? Niall? I'm just gonna go with Niall. Many people...
I believe it's Niall. It's Irish, right? Niall? I think it's Niall.
The main point of interest when talking about Niall happens in the first few seconds of the fight. He immediately spawns 2 banished knights. The one on the left being the sword and shield guy, and the one on the right being the dual swordsman guy. Now, these 2 knights completely ruin the fight for me. Niall is very passive when these 2 guys are alive, but that doesn't matter at all since 2 giant knights are still chasing you. Their AI clear...
That's totally fair. That's annoying. Yeah, no, I get it. Honestly, I didn't have that much of a problem dealing with the 2 knights. Maybe it's because I'm somewhat decent at kiting multiple enemies, because I usually like to take all my fights one-on-one, and I've been doing it every fucking fight in this game. But honestly, I never had that big of a problem with them. I'm usually able to kill them pretty fast and just fight Niall, and then at that point, the fight is just a pretty decent one-on-one.
Really wasn't designed to...
Honestly, I think the Neil, or no, what O'Neil, the one in Caelid is worse because he summons so many fucking little banished, or not the... They're like the smaller banished knights, like the ones with the hoods. That one's way worse because they just spam arrows the whole time. And you just have to waste your time running around in a big-ass fucking circle, kiting these dudes, and just trying to kill them one by one as he buffs them. That shit is way worse, in my opinion.
Form a fair gank fight. One of them just isn't passive, and they both demolish you and don't give a shit about if it's a fair fight or not. Now let's think of some strategies to defeat them. 1. Fight one of them in a 1v1. Yeah, because that's totally going to work. The other one is just going to do its leap attack, and then they'll one-shot you.
It ain't the easiest, but it can be done, I will say that. But that's fair. Honestly, all these criticisms about Niall and O'Neil, what I've been saying too, I think are totally fair. I could totally understand if someone is annoyed with this fight. I guess the last time I fought him wasn't that bad, personally.
2. Do heavy attacks while they're grouped together. This seems like a good idea, but if you don't have a big enough weapon, you aren't going to do shit. It's more than likely that you won't stun them and they'll just bulldoze through your attacks. 3. Use summons, like the game probably intended you to do. No, we aren't going to use summons on this ranking, even though I'm 99% sure that this boss incentivizes you to do so.
True. This is probably one of those, like, just summon bosses, but I think as a lot of quote-unquote Souls vets, summons just kind of feel like a cheap way out. Why do them, you know? I feel like it's totally fair to say that you should be able to beat every boss in the game without having to resort to summons if you don't want to. Because summons are a playstyle. They're not like a required mechanic that you are, like, forced to engage with. It's a playstyle. Some people don't use summons because they're literally not able to within their playstyle, and the game should accommodate for that as best that it can, in my opinion.
Let's talk about the actual good part, or even the great part about this fight. Yall. Yall is surprisingly a very fun boss to fight, and paired with him are some of the heaviest looking moves in the game. His veteran's prosthesis conducts lightning, and he can swing his flagpole staff around to create huge Ice Storm wind-up attacks. His attack...
Honestly, it's a little sad that they really thought that Yall was too easy on his own, so they had to add in 2 enemies for you to fight as well. Because I feel like Yall stands totally fine on his own. He's a good boss. You didn't need to add extra enemies to make him, like, you know, adding like a little bit of fucking steak sauce to a perfectly cooked filet mignon. Like, they didn't need to do that.
Are visually explosive and are very cinematic. He's just got this rhythm to him that makes this fight so memorable. Parrying Yall is also stupidly satisfying and easy to pull off. Combine all that together and you've got a very fun boss. And then you remember that the 2 knights at the start exist. And now you know why this boss isn't ranked any lower than it should be.
Oh boy. Fuck, bro.
And here we have the Godskin Apostle. I'll try to explain why I think he's better than the Godskin Noble. You see, the reason why Skinny is better than Fat is because Skinny seems to have an actual rhythm to the fight.
I have, like, the weirdest... okay, before... You know what? I'll let him speak before I go on my thing about Skinny.
I've said this many times by now, and I'll say it again in the future, but I feel like having a sense of flow and rhythm is just what makes a fight click. I hate dodging awkward, randomly timed attacks that don't feel natural. I much prefer the fast combos and intense gameplay of a boss that has flow to it. This is exactly what applies to the Godskin twins. Skinny just has flashier looking attacks and faster paced attacks that require much more precision and skill to dodge. Where Fatty has the roll and Black Flame Firewall, Skinny has a Black Flame Tornado and a helicopter attack. And these moves are much more engaging than Fatty's. It's a fairly simple boss, but you know, I like it.
Okay. Loretta's next. Alright. I absolutely fucking despised Godskin Apostle the first time I fought him in Caelid. Maybe it was because I was under-leveled at the time. I don't remember what my level was. That was on my first playthrough, so this was like a year or 2 ago or some shit. I absolutely fucking hated this nigga with every fiber of my being. I hated him. He was like the most annoying fucking fight. And even now, I still don't like Godskin Apostle. For me personally, I feel like everyone has like a boss or 2 that they just personally suck at fighting. And Godskin Apostle, for me, I hate fighting him so much. It feels like every time I try to dodge him, he's always clipping me perfectly every time. And anytime I try to punish him, he punishes me twice as hard. And it's just like insanely frustrating for me personally.
Alright, just like in my last video, we've come to the point where these next bosses don't have any inherent flaws applied to them. Gone are the mediocre and uninteresting bosses, and in come the actual impressive bosses that Elden Ring gives us. We'll start off these good bosses with the real Loretta, not the fake one. You'll find her in one of the last areas of the game, which is the Halleck Tree, and she acts as a final obstacle before Melania.
I actually really like Loretta. Loretta is... It sucks that she's a reused boss fight. There's so many bosses in this game that just didn't need to be reused. Honestly, at least in Loretta's case, she's reused pretty early in the game. I mean, you meet her for the first time in, what, like the fucking mansion right after, why am I forgetting the name of the fucking mage place in the game? God damn. Where you fight Renala, obviously. I can't remember the name right now. Caria Manor is where you fight her, right? God damn, I cannot remember. Regardless, her fight's pretty good. Yeah, I actually really like Loretta. She's one of the most well-designed bosses in the game, I think. But her moveset's like very simplistic. She doesn't really have like anything super flashy, even in her second phase. It's very straightforward, but I think that works for her. She's very simple. She's a good boss.
I think the
Interesting. Draconic Tree Sentinel itself. Yeah, I don't know. I do like all the Tree Sentinels, but man, I hate how reused they are. There's just so many of them, and there's not like a bunch that you like are absolutely required to fight, but even in the base game of like you fight the first one right after in Limgrave, you fight the one in Lindell, and then you have to fight the one right before you fight Malekith. Man, I don't know. I like the Draconic Tree Sentinel, especially the one that you fight in Lindell, because level-wise, I think that one is probably the best one. But I'm just so annoyed of this boss fight. I've fought it so many times that I'm just so tired of doing it.
Draconic Tree Sentinel is a bit better than Loretta. He's got a more exciting moveset, and he's far more aggressive. Draconic Tree Sentinel, I'll just call him DTS from now on, is one of the few non-achievement bosses that is required to beat the game. You'll find him guarding the entrance to Leyendell, one of the major mid-game areas in Elden Ring. His first phase gives him the impression of just a tougher looking tree sentinel, but once you get him into his second phase, he unlocks his Draconic Lightning attacks, which are just stunning. It's honestly horrifying seeing this badass Steel Knight just leaping at you with this giant AoE attack. He's also got this lightning shield attack that is well telegraphed and oddly satisfying to dodge. DTS's horse can also spew fireballs at you, which is just the cherry on top. It's amazing. He sort of reminds me of a scaled down version of the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3. He's riding an animal that can also attack you.
That's an interesting comparison. I fucking love the Nameless King, but I don't hate the Draconic Tree Sentinel or any of the Tree Sentinels. I just don't really like them. I don't know. They're okay. I guess this is a fair placement. I guess I would agree with this.
He's got similar lightning attacks like the vertical slam one, and he does massive damage. The DTS is a great mid-game boss fight to check your reaction time and gameplay skills before you get to Leyendell.
You know what? I gotta say it. Putting Godric this low is kind of criminal.
Man, Godric is an intense boss.
I don't know. I'd put Godric a lot higher personally. I think I'd put him in the top 10. I have already spoke so much shit about Godric, about why I love the fight, why I love his atmosphere, his presence, his music, everything about him. Putting him this low is personally annoying for me, but I can't disagree. I mean, Godric, I could totally understand why someone wouldn't like Godric as much as me. I fucking love Godric. That nigga's awesome. But it's fair. He's a great fight.
This motherfucker is insane. Like, he's freaky. I bet he's freaky. Godric's a great boss. He's the final foe
he's definitely freaky.
You face before exiting the notorious Stormvale Castle, and he sure puts up a fight. Now, if you were playing the game for the first time, you fought Margit and maybe some other bosses, but once you enter this fog gate, this is probably going to be your toughest looking and fighting boss yet. Godric is just this grafted maniac psychopath that attaches other people's body parts onto his. He's got like 15 arms and wields this great axe that is like twice the size of your character. Don't lie, you were 100% intimidated by this dude on your...
Oh, absolutely. Godric's presence, the first time you fight him, the first time you're playing Elden Ring, that's something that is like... Other Souls games have done this really well as well, but I feel like the presence of fighting Godric for the first time, finally getting through Stormvale Castle, is just... Oh, boy. It's fucking great. Man, I love this. Man, I could go on an hour-long video just talking about why everything about Godric for me is amazing.
Your first playthrough. Godric will throw out these tough-to-time axe attacks and hand swipes, bringing out these drawn-out and flashy combos that are well-designed. He's also got these storm attacks that have him either throwing wind at you or leaping up in the air thinking that he's Gale. This first phase gets you used to his unique moveset and sets you up for his climax, which is the second phase. Similar to Morgott, he just yells obscurities and chops off his own arm. And then he sticks his severed stump into a dragon head as it reanimates. And then it turns out he can breathe fire out the dragon head as it screams bear witness. Like, this has no right to be this goofy. The voice acting is top tier though, I have to admit. The soundtrack comes blasting in as he opens up with this approaching fire breath attack, and it makes for another memorable moment in this fight.
Yeah, there it is, baby! Shoi Miyazawa-san. Arigatou gozaimasu. It's fucking amazing soundtrack.
He only unlocks a few more minor moves, but other than that, it's just Godric but amplified. I just get this insane rush every time I fight Godric, it's addicting. Elden Ring's introduction to a Great Rune boss is done respectfully here. This is a one-of-a-kind and surprisingly fun fight.
Alright, finally we get to it. I was waiting for us to get to the fucking duos and why the fuck... I gotta hear what he's gonna say, and then I'll respond to why the fuck he put this dog shit fight so high.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking, but I
Oh, do you? Let's hear it.
strongly think that this fight is overhated. I used to think like that too, though. I thought that the Godskin duo was the worst duo boss fight that FromSoft has ever made, and that it would be ranked horribly in this video. But after I recently fought the Valiant Gargoyles in the Godskin duo this playthrough, I've had big turnarounds in my opinions. I gotta admit, I like the Godskin duo. It's obviously not in the top 10, but I still really enjoy it. It's the ultimate test of skill you'll face up until this point. And it's a balanced one too. Now that I think about it...
Holy shit, did he just say this fight was balanced? Look, anyone's opinion is their opinion, and that's totally fine, but wow. This, to me, this fight in this game is like the very example of everything that I don't like about Elden Ring. It just has so much bullshit that you can't really account for, and it feels like the one thing that the game is telling you to do is just summon, and I really don't like that that seems to be like the solution to every problem for Elden Ring, is that just summon or just use X item that you don't want to use or is going to invalidate your build choice. Come on. Sure, maybe he's cooking, maybe I need to fight these guys again, but I really hated this fight so fucking much. It pissed me off. And not just because I already didn't like fighting Skinny. I actually don't mind fighting Fatty solo. Fatty solo is fine. But Skinny alone is just annoying as fuck. And having to fight both of them at the same time, oh man. I really, really hate this fight. If he likes it, that's fair. I can't tell him that he's wrong. But man, saying this is balanced is fucking crazy, bruh.
I don't even know why I hated the Godskin duel in the first place. I honestly bandwagoned, which is pretty funny to me. But let's start talking about the balance. It's almost cooked to perfection. These two guys never overwhelm or explicitly 2v1 you. It's rare if
they kind of do, like, all the time. Maybe you could argue that if you're bad at kiting, that's your fault, and sure. But they, at least when I was fighting them, they would not stop fucking just coming at me. There were times where they were very passive and one would kind of sit away. But it's just, felt so frantic that I could only get 1 or 2 hits in, and I couldn't do it consistently. Like, sure, staggering them, that's the big thing about this fight too, and I haven't fought them recently, so I haven't been able to test this myself. But staggering this fight makes it apparently a lot easier, so maybe I need to try that. I'll consider his viewpoint, but man, this fight is...
if you would find yourself getting ganked by both of these guys. And by ganked, I mean like the Valiant Gargoyles ganked. Like attacking you at the same time and shit. They follow that fundamental rule where only one guy gets aggressive and the other dude sits back and maybe throws a projectile at you once in a while. And these two just have the perfect amount of aggression. If this fight was just one dude sitting in the back and doing nothing while the other guy was aggressive towards you, it would be kind of boring, right? But instead what they did was genius. They first set the aggressor's AI to a normal 1v1 fight as usual, but then they just added a minuscule amount of aggression to the supposed passive guy, and then that just creates a wonderful formula of 2v1 fights. It shapes the fight to be this back and forth
I don't know.
constant battle that rarely involves the player just running around and waiting for an opportunity to attack. Oh, and another thing to mention, remember that annoying fat roll attack that the Noble has? Well, they added pillars around the arena to create spacing for that, which is a nice little added bonus.
I mean, it doesn't always work. Sometimes the motherfucker's just gonna roll right over that shit, but yeah.
I got one more thing to point out, the soundtrack. This track is severely underrated when it comes to the big bosses of this game, and I absolutely love it. It makes the fight so much more intense and that much better.
I mean, we could keep praising Elden Ring for its amazing soundtrack all day, but I will agree. Godskin Apostle's soundtrack goes fucking nuts, bruh. The song is crazy. Tai Tomisawa-san. Arigatou gozaimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. ね。いや、でもこの戦いは、結構、まずいだろうな。
Rykard?
Pray tell Rykard. Okay, let's see what he has to say.
Is an unhinged boss fight. This might be the most abnormal boss in Elden Ring. He is the franchise's reoccurring gimmick fight, and staying true to the formula, you receive a windstorm weapon to defeat a giant boss. FromSoft has certainly learned from their past mistake.
Hey, don't forget about the Storm King and Demon Souls.
And I think they wanted to make this their greatest gimmick fight yet, and it shows. It's not too easy, but not too hard and frustrating. It's got that iconic cool factor and it's memorable. They really said, hey, take this spear version of the Storm Ruler and kill this giant snake with a face that can talk. And yes, when he talks, it sounds, well, I'll just say it sounds interesting.
I actually really like Rykard's voice acting. Every single character in Elden Ring has like a very unique voice, which is a thing is great, and I really like Rykard's voice. I don't know why, it sounds weird as fuck, but I prefer Rykard's voice over Mohg's. Mohg sounds like he had like he's been smoking Newports the past 45 fucking years and hasn't had a drink in water in 40 days and 40 nights, like he was on Noah's Ark or some shit. But at least Rykard, I don't know. Both of them kind of sound weird, not gonna lie, but I do like Rykard's voice.
You gain access to the serpent.
I mean, he kind of sounds like he's, I don't know, he's a weird, he's like a weird little guy. He's a little guy.
Behind the serpent the entire time, and he pulls a sword out of the serpent's throat, saying some goofy shit. And once he gets access to a sword, the fight turns from wacky to bad shit.
Hey, bro, sometimes you just gotta like the goofy shit. That's what makes these games fun, man.
Insane. His perfectly telegraphed sword attacks are just so satisfying to dodge, and then he's got these skull projectiles with like a billion particles on screen. It's absolute chaos. This is literally like YouTube Shorts brain rot with so much going on that the second...
Oh, interesting. Eleanor of the Briar. So what is this? This is 9? This is 9?
I bet you didn't expect this little...
Or sorry, Elmer of the Briar. Or Elmer of the Briar?
Guy to be in the top 10. Oh yeah, and speaking of top...
I think this is... I wouldn't put him in the top 10 personally, but he's a good fight. I hated him the first time I fought him again, respected his moves, really kind of learned his moveset, and I think he's a pretty good fight. I actually really like him.
10. Well, we're at the top 10.
I think his design sucks, though. He looks stupid as fuck.
10. And starting off this top 10 list, we have Elmer. I think this guy is the most underrated boss in Elden Ring. He's not the biggest boss, he's not the most bombastic, and he's certainly not the toughest boss, but he is so extraordinarily good at being flashy and well-rounded. Elmer doesn't have any special cutscene or dialogue though, but rather just an extremely solid and grounded moveset that is just so fun to play against. He's got a set of unpredictable but rather consistent attacks while still offering an enjoyable challenge. You'll find him swinging his goddamn executioner sword like a Jedi with these crimson telekinetic slams. Every arsenal in his unconfined moveset just flows beautifully during...
Actually, interesting that he mentioned Jedi. This fight really does remind me of Jedi Fallen Order a little bit. It feels that way a little bit. Jedi Fallen Order has a completely different combat system than Elden Ring, obviously, but it gives me some nostalgia for that. I'll say that.
They gave the dude with the most badass name, barbed wire armor, fucking Jedi floating sword attacks, and a lifesteal fist, only to give him a horribly underwhelming soundtrack. He's just treated like a common enemy in the castle. Imagine how much better this fight would have been if they gave this dude some deep-ass dialogue at the start and gave him some menacing theme, but instead we just got this
I kind of disagree. I think the fact that you don't know much about this dude and the only other time you fight him is when you're, he's like the bell-bearing hunter, right? I think that's cool. He kind of tells his own story in that respect, even though it might not be the same person, right? I think that's cool in and of itself, though. I think not knowing much about this dude kind of elevates his status a little bit in the game.
Generic open world boss theme that Elden Ring copies and pastes.
Yeah, this soundtrack's dog water. Have to agree, brother.
Like, that's it? It's unfortunate, but I guess it is what it is. Overall, an unforgettable boss in my opinion.
Is this Margaret or Morgoth?
I'm guessing some of you might be surprised on why Margaret is all the way...
Yeah, I still feel weird about Margaret. I already commented on him in my video. I like Margaret a lot, but there's just... The more... I'll say this. I think you reach a plateau when you played Elden Ring, especially the beginning of Elden Ring, multiple times. And Margaret goes from being really bad to being really good to being just okay to being kind of forgettable, because everything Margaret does is just better with Morgoth, unfortunately. Like, I still like Margaret in and of itself. I do like him. I still always enjoy fighting him to some degree, but like now, I don't know. Everything Morgoth does, Margaret is just diet Morgoth, and that's the point. I know that's the lore, but it's just it is what it is. It holds him back just for that very reason.
The first thing Margit teaches you is how to work the ropes of Elden Ring, familiarizing you with the classic but unique combat system. Elden Ring is like Dark Souls 3 if it took 2 heaping piles of crack cocaine. If you came straight from Dark Souls 3, it'd be like switching from Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal. It's noticeably faster, a lot more dynamic, and has an excruciatingly larger amount of delayed
I've only played Doom 2016, so I don't even get this comparison, but I trust it.
attacks. And if you came from Dark Souls 1, it'd be like switching from fucking Pong to Ultra Kill. Elden Ring's bosses have a much wider arsenal of moves and behaviors
That's a weird ass. Wow. What the fuck?
than any other previous Souls bosses. Margit alone, which is essentially just a tutorial boss, has like 4 different combo strings he can destroy you with. Elden Ring also introduces jumping, which is another great option for the more aggressive players. Finally, the infamous delayed attacks. The delayed attacks have always been memed since Elden Ring's launch, and it is continuously memed to this day. Margit's delayed swings threw me off when I first played Elden Ring, as delayed attacks weren't very common in the Souls series, but I think we eventually all
Yeah, I think now that the game's been out for a while and people have gotten used to how Elden Ring's kind of flow state is, the delayed attacks I think are a good addition to the game by and large. Some of them are really fucking stupid, and some of them are so ridiculous that it ropes back around to being really cool again, like with Horaloo.
got used to them. And when Margit gets down to half health, his second phase just abruptly appears, and it teaches the player Elden Ring's other big change, the second phases. Bosses in this game go absolutely crazy during the phase change, and Margit is no exception. He unlocks like 2 new combo strings and can destroy panic rollers. Margit is the perfect tutorial boss in my opinion. Rattles out the weeds, panic rollers, and teaches the player to go out and explore if the boss is too hard. So many fundamental Elden Ring mechanics are learned at this starting point, and that's where most of my love for Margit comes from.
W opinion on Margit, gotta agree.
Guys,
Oh boy. Okay. Oh, I gotta listen to what he has to say before I even say anything.
I have to admit something. I actually don't really enjoy the Malekith fight. It's
Really?
kinda ass, and it's one of the worst late game
Oh no,
bosses
wait,
in
no,
Elden
he's
Ring.
trolling. This is bait.
This
is bait.
for the first part, of course.
Yep, this is
I'm
bait.
gonna rip it out and just say that I dislike the Beast Clergyman fight. I do wish they shortened the fight against the Clergyman and compensated for a longer quality Malekith fight. The Beast Clergyman is just such a mixed bag for me. At one point he can feel like an actual great boss with a back and forth battle type feeling, and then other times he jumps 40 feet away from you to throw his shitty little rock pebbles. And he does have his fair share of awkward and frankly horrible attacks, but the rest of the fight is fine as long as you have the damage to...
You know, I half agree, I half disagree. I was just talking to one of my friends actually a couple days ago, or maybe about a week ago or so, because he was just refighting Malekith, and we were going back and forth about it a little bit, because I used to really not like Malekith, Beast Clergyman, but now I really like both of them. I actually really like Beast Clergyman. Now that I understand how his mechanics work and how to like dodge his attacks pretty semi-consistently, I think his push-pull rhythm, which is something that Feeble King said if you've seen his video about defense of Elden Ring bosses, which is a pretty good video, is true. It's good. It's good. I actually don't like Malekith to the same degree that I like Beast Clergyman. I like Beast Clergyman. He is still very annoying. Both of them are very annoying. But the main reason why I don't like Malekith is kind of the same reason everyone doesn't like Malekith. The fact that he has a bunch of stupid ninja bullshit that's kind of hard to predict. And he does way too much damage for, like, honestly no reason. There's no reason for him to do fire damage and Destined Death. It should have just been Destined Death, and I think people wouldn't have complained. His damage output is fucking, like, absurd, honestly. That shit is ridiculous.
Looking like he came straight out of Berserk, Malekith just spawns inside of the Beast Clergyman, and you realize that the dude you were giving the death roots to was Malekith all along. And after that interesting cutscene, he does his little anime pose, and then it transitions into gameplay.
Yep.
Malekith presents a brand new mechanic in the Souls series, which is the life drain and reducing max HP mechanic in an active boss fight. This happens literally every time you get hit with one of his Destined Death moves, incentivizing you to perfect his attack patterns and to not be greedy. And when you finally do memorize his attack patterns, it feels great. It's like you're on the dance floor just gracefully shifting through Malekith's swipes. Malekith's got perfect...
I don't know. The anime shit is cool, but I get bored of stuff like that kind of soon sometimes. In Malekith's case, it works for the most part. I really don't like it when he jumps away and does the swipes and, like, jumps on the pillars. That's kind of annoying, but it doesn't happen super frequently. The main thing I also don't like about the anime shit is that he has this like one attack that he almost never does consistently that is like damn near unreactable, and it's just stupid, and it feels like an insta-kill that you can't do anything to avoid.
Quickly spaced slashing moves he can perform with his comically sized sword. Like, this shit is crazy, man. He also dynamically leaps atop the pillars in the boss room just to attack you with spinning blade projectile beams and then slams down into you. Now this is how you do projectiles in a boss fight. Don't make them obnoxious and spammable, just make them with quality and scarcity.
I mean, they're kind of spammable.
Not to mention, this is probably the best looking arena graphically.
Or spammy, I should say. You cooking a little. You know what? We'll put the pot up to boil. What else you gotta say?
Sometimes Elden Ring's graphics just click, and this is one of those times. The god rays and the tornadoes raging in the background just add so much to the visuals and atmosphere to the battle. And did you know you can actually parry Malekith? By using the Blasphemous Claw item, you can do so, and the way they handle the parry mechanic is genius.
Yes, I did. I've never used the Blasphemous Claw in his fight, though. Mostly because I don't... I may try. I want to try it one playthrough, but I haven't used it yet. I just didn't really need to use it.
The Blasphemous Claw is similar to those helpful items that can be used against bosses' weaknesses. And this time, instead of having a 3-use only policy like the Shackles, the Claw can be used whenever Malekith's blade shines gold. So this makes the player have to learn Malekith's attacks again, and to stay diligent for the right time to parry. And when you...
This is honestly using... I agree with this point if what he's going to say is what I think he's going to say. That... I don't like using Margit and Mohg Shackle because it just feels like it's a 3-use instance of just the boss just stops working. It's kind of stupid. I prefer it like this where it's a counter, but it's not like a regular counter. You have to learn when to use it because it's kind of reinforcing the boss's mechanics again while using an item that if you're getting rewarded for exploration, which is a cool thing. And you still aren't really invalidating the boss's moveset by just using a weapon to instantly beat them, because you still have to deal with Malekith's other shit. It's not like the Blasphemous Claw instantly makes the fight 1,000% easier. It makes it 20% easier, and you still have to deal with his shit anyway.
You do get that parry off, it's so satisfying, man. You can't riposte him, but it does give you a massive window to attack him. Anyways, my only complaints are that some of his attacks are simply just not fair. For example, his Death and Death little anime slash thing is so impossibly irritating to dodge. You have to be at the right place, the right time, and with lucky positioning, you might just be able to dodge.
Actually, you can dodge. I found a way to dodge this. You have to like dodge out, like if you can see where his little side of grace, or not the side of grace, his dropped runes is. You kind of have to. I think you're supposed to roll out that way, and you can avoid it every time, right? Actually, that might be in the Feeble King video too. Maybe that's where I learned it from. I don't remember. Feeble King, if you haven't seen that video in defense of Elden Ring's boss design, really good video. Maybe a little outdated now, but I think it's still cooking. Honestly, everything about Elden Ring's about to change once Erdtree comes out.
Dodge it. Other than that, this is a top tier boss.
True. Fuck with Malekith. Yeah, boy! Let's go!
I'll get the medal.
I'd put Placidusax debatably even higher. I might put him at 5. I fucking love Placidusax. This fight kicks ass, man.
For the most cinematic boss to Placidusax.
Yes,
Hands
sir.
down, not even close.
Yes,
the sheer
sir.
spectacle of this fight is just on another level compared to any other boss. Let me just go through the list of crazy stuff with you. So, if I'm correct, you literally go back in time in Farum Azula, rebuild the center building, and then you see this giant-ass floating double-headed dragon egg just levitating in the center. All while you are set in what I think is in the best arena in the game. This boss right here is Elden Ring's cinematic factor at its best. The cool factor is unmatched, and it can't get any better than this.
That's true.
Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but this boss's gameplay isn't perfect. It's not very consequential in the bigger picture, but these problems still plague the...
I'll agree with this too. As much as I love Placidusax, Placidusax does everything Fortisax does, and even better. The only thing that's different is that Placidusax's theme is not as good as Fortisax's theme, but the cinematic elements of this fight, this is like... First, fighting this dude and hearing the soundtrack play and just him doing all his cool lightning shit, it was, oh man, it was amazing, man. Absolutely top 10 favorite fight in all of From Software, easy peasy. Man, this fight kicks ass.
The boss fight a little. And that problem is the first phase. It's your typical Elden Ring dragon fight with monotonous claw swipes, tail whips, and some annoying fire breath. Hey, at least this dragon stays still for the first phase, unlike other dragons.
Honestly, this is the only example of me not really... The first phase is true. I think what he's saying is true there, but The first phase kind of gets over pretty fast because during his first phase, you can get a lot of kind of free hits on him. It's really easy to avoid his fire once you get close to him, so it's not that bad.
But man, the second phase is where actual good shit starts.
Exactly.
Placidusax floats up in the air and vanishes first, leaving the player anticipating on what's going to happen next. The player knows something's coming, and they're probably scared out of their mind. Then, some red lightning rumbles in the distance as you shit your pants, and bam, a goddamn red claw swipe swings into you at 1,000,000 miles
Bro came in with the glide kick like he's fucking Batman from Arkham Knight.
per hour. And wait a minute, it's not done yet. The whole second phase revolves around a faster and harder hitting red lightning physical variation. Placidusax is phasing in and out of the map, constantly hitting the player with conjured claw attacks. And then after that, he finishes with a Midir-like laser beam attack that has devastating damage and
Yeah, this is like a direct reference to Midir.
rightfully so. It literally feels like you're in a cutscene, but you can actually control your character. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. What a marvel of a boss fight.
Yeah, honestly, I could gush about that fight for forever, man. It's great. It's fucking a kick-ass fight. So we only got a couple more here, right? That was 7, so this is 6, so that's Morgott. So what could be left? I mean, there's Morgott, obviously there's Melania, there's Horlu, / Godfrey, Godskin, or not Godskin, what am I saying? You know what? He's probably ranking, I would assume he's also going to be ranking Radagon and Elden Beast as one fight, which is fair because they technically are one fight. Moog's about to be up here
For the
too.
longest time, I actually used to be the biggest Morgott hater.
Really?
But as of recently, I think he's one of the best boss fights in the game. And now that I think about it,
I kind of was like that too. The first time I fought him with my friend, actually with my roommate, who is home right now. But we fought it together, and I didn't hate the fight. I thought it was okay. But now that I've refought him again solo, I really like Morgott. His everything that I don't like about Margit is fixed with Morgott, pretty much. Including the theme. Like, Morgott's theme is twice as good as Margit's theme. I know I clowned on it in my video, but Morgott's theme, when we get to that point of the playthrough, I'll give it its due diligence.
that he's literally just Margit multiplied by 10. Back when Elden Ring first launched in 2022, I was one of those Moonville Rivers of Blood jump attack bleed spammers who beat the shit out of their dodge button. And Morgott is a boss that perfectly counters this type of playstyle.
Nah, I'm just capping. If you did that shit, I don't blame you. Elden Ring's difficulty was so ridiculous that I don't blame people from resulting to the most cheapest bullshit spam in the game.
Thus making me despise him. But after beating all the bosses again during this playthrough, my opinion has drastically changed. Learning against Morgott was one of the most rewarding ways to play Elden Ring. It literally changed how I play Elden Ring today. When the cutscene starts, you'll be thinking, didn't I already fight this bum at the start? How did he come back? But then he just casually burns the crust off of his staff and gets a goddamn Damascus chem like he just unlocked a Call of
I
Duty.
never realized that it actually is Damascus.
Now, Morgott is sort of like the Pontiff Sullivan of Elden Ring. He's precisely a mid-game boss that acts as a skill and DPS check for the player. If
True.
you've been panic rolling the entire game, this time he'll make sure you put an end to that bad habit.
True.
His animations for his attacks might seem awkward and deceitful.
You know, maybe this is a little contradictory because I don't like Malekith's anime bullshit, but actually I don't really like Morgott's either, but at least Morgott's is timed in a way that you can always anticipate it and it feels very fair.
At first, but once you focus and just lock in, it flows so naturally. And I know it might sound like a broken record at this point, but Morgott just has that rhythm and flow inside of him that
Hey bro, if you ain't been locked in the whole time you've been playing this game, what are you doing?
makes the arena feel like a dance when you're fighting him. Appealing combo strings and golden incantations is what makes this fight so special. And just like with Margit, Morgott has special tricks coming up his sleeve for round 2. And when I said coming, I literally meant coming. Because when he engages in second phase, he shits and explodes everywhere while just screaming at the top of his lungs.
True.
No, but seriously, this fight goes from 0 to 100 in a fraction of a second.
It does,
The
it
weather
really
becomes
does.
gloomy and atmospheric, the music changes.
The only thing I don't like about Morgott is he kind of has his own waterfowl dance, but it's way easier to deal with. So it's not the worst thing ever. It's fine. It's just like weird that they gave him like, I guess a lot of bosses in Elden Ring kind of have like one anime attack that like you have to watch out for. But unlike Waterfowl Dance, they don't constantly spam it typically. Like Placidusax has his lasers. He'll typically only use it once, maybe twice during the fight. And same thing with like knee heals only once per fight in Moog. Okay, Rykard's skull attack, he does spam that one, so maybe this isn't totally true, but for the most part, not every boss does this.
He gets more aggressive, and he gets access to the Cursed Bloodblade moves. Holy fuck, these are one of the most terrifying grab attacks in the game.
Yes.
This shit makes me want to run across the entire arena just to avoid him. Dodging this delayed grab attack is euphorically rewarding though, holy shit. It is. But man, this second phase is something.
And I think it's very interesting that delayed grab attack is also gets reinforced again when you fight Hoaraloo, because Hoaraloo is just a bunch of delayed grab attacks. Honestly, and the thing is that I love about Morgott too, that I'll also probably mention this again when I get to that part of the Demo Man playthrough, is that Morgott, if you've been paying attention and you learned how to fight Margit the way, like, learned his moves, learn how to, like, jump attack, everything that you need to learn how to beat him, Morgott takes all those elements, like, all the moves that Morgott has is shit that Margit does, but just it adds on to it, and it's fucking perfect. It's so good. This fight is so good. Honestly, the more I think about it, this fight might even go up. It might be in the top 5 for me as well. Or this might be 6 for him. I don't remember, but this fight, everything that you learn about Margit just gets better with Morgott. It's like wine, bro. It just gets better with time. It's great.
Something else. It's another level of fun. I love this little guy.
Yeah. Great fight. What is this, 5?
Alright, we've officially made it into the top 5 bosses.
Alright. Okay, I'll let him speak first. Let him speak first on this one.
Get ready, because these bosses have some absolutely insane showcases. And we're going to kick off this top 5 with the final boss of the game. Although this boss made it into the top 5, it is without a doubt the most disappointing boss on this list. I know that sounds really bad, but let me just explain my opinions.
I think I know what he's about to say.
Radagon is such a top tier final boss. You've got the arena, the moveset, the animation fluidity, the difficulty, and the music. I fucking love the trope where games use the final boss's music as the main menu's music. This shit works.
It's not exactly the same though, and I agree with this trope. I think it's really good.
So well here. They even used this song in the announcement trailer, which makes it even more iconic. Again, it sounds like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but this fight just feels so smooth and flows so well. None of his attacks are unfair, except for this teleport, but that doesn't even count.
I disagree on the teleport part. I think the teleport is very fair.
Because the rest of this fight is just so good. Battling out with Radagon while the Elden Ring theme song is just rumbling in the background is one of FromSoft's best moments in their games.
Tsukasa Saito. Arigatou gozaimasu. Yeah, this song, oh man, every time I hear it, it's just like, oh boy, man, this theme is so good. Holy fuck, it's so good. Y'all don't know how often I casually just listen to Elden Ring's soundtrack when I'm out and about. I gotta commend you, bruh, Critter Farts. You syncing the shit to him doing the ring pounder. Chef's kiss. Awesome.
And if you watch the whole intro cutscene, the part where Radagon appears on the screen with his hammer in his fist, just posing like an absolute badass, is incredible.
And it's synced to the music too. This opening to this... Fuck, man. Why didn't they just use Radagon? Fuck! Elden Beast literally ruins this fight damn near. It's that bad. Fuck.
Everything about this fight is just perfection. And a part of me hates myself because I didn't put him lower on the list, but I'm sure you all know why he isn't lower on the list.
Yeah, we're getting to it.
It starts with E and rhymes with Elden Feast. It's the dreaded Elden Beast. Now, I'm not one of those guys who just absolutely hates Elden Beast with all my heart, but I don't like the fight either. It's just the most disappointing, underwhelming, sorry-ass excuse for a final boss on the list. If FromSoft made a second phase for a stronger, more intense final form of Radagon, this fight would easily be the best on this list, no doubt about it.
Probably,
but
yeah.
They just
I think it's hard to argue that.
Little golden creature. I mean, I get it. This fight isn't supposed to be some grand final battle, but rather an emotional and beautiful end to Elden Ring. but that's fucking stupid. For me, personally, I hate calm and depressing final boss fights in video games. But except Gwyn, because it fits the setting perfectly.
True.
But this is Elden Ring we're talking about here, not Dark Souls. Elden Ring...
I mean, I think there is something to be said about calm, Gwen's kind of in between, though, because if you don't parry him, he's actually pretty hard, but that still doesn't make the fight any less sad. That shit brings a tear to me eye.
Is its own journey, its own world, and not nearly as depressing as Dark Souls. Ending with a bang was the best thing they could have done here, but they just choked. They just bait us with this mediocre Pokemon-looking thing that runs away from you like literally 70% of the fight, and just spams the most vile projectiles at you, which is my personal worst combination for a boss to have. Most of its attacks are just gimmick moves, like this pathetic jumping ring attack, Elden Stars, which is like near impossible
I actually didn't even know you could jump over that ring. I always just sprinted as fast as I fucking could.
Dodge, and the Golden Wave. Once Elden Beast pulls out his sword and begins to do some cool stuff, it's already over. I mean, at least they got the arena right, it's pretty captivating, but I don't even want to talk about the
shit. I'll even say that the arena and the design of Elden Beast itself is good. It's just everything else besides that, the fight is fucking so bad.
This fight anymore. It's just such a letdown. Radagon carries this final boss fight so hard that it made it into number 5.
You know what? I think for that reason alone, putting him at 5 is totally reasonable. It just sucks that Elden Beast is... I can't even, like, understand how they have, like, damn near the best boss fight attached to the worst one. Man, Radagon, if Radagon just had a phase 2... Radagon would easily be the best boss in the game. I don't think anyone could argue against that. It's just as he said. But why is the Elden Beast the last fucking boss? It's so bad. It's literally just the fire giant again, but worse. Because its moves do even more damage, and it's just more running around. And you can't use Torrent. So everything about the fire giant fight is just the Elden Beast fight, but you don't even get the option to move faster. Why did they do that? Oh, holy shit, I forgot Radahn was in this fucking game.
Gosh, I don't even know where to start with Radahn. It's just such a creative boss fight that's got so many positives residing within it. This is what I consider to be the first boss on this list with no flaws. It's perfect. Every other boss after this boss is perfect, but just better in their own way, if you understand what I mean.
We'll see. I don't know if I'd agree with all of them, but I will say, Radahn... When I first fought Radahn, I honestly didn't think I'd be able to beat him because I just didn't know how to deal with him. And I never fought him pre-nerf, so I don't know, you know, when the nigga was wilding and going fucking crazy, you know. But I fought him again recently, and I still like Radahn's fight a lot, but it is kind of boring, unfortunately. The presence of this fight is fucking perfect. The theme, perfect. His moveset, fucking visually, perfect. But fighting him on horseback, I don't like it. And I also don't really like fighting him not on horseback. I just don't really like fighting his moveset. I feel like I'm always just kind of... I have to treat him like he's a beast boss fight, which is fair because he's like fucking 20 feet tall, but like, it just makes the fight not as fun for me. I don't know. I mean, his asteroid attack is still dope as fuck. That's always going to be the best phase transition from any boss fight, I think, period. But, man, I like Radahn a lot. I would not put him this high. I don't know. Like I said, fighting him not on horseback and fighting him on horseback are both just not that great. Still not a horrible fight. It's not like it's completely egregious, but it's just the nigga's got problems. And those problems, fight-wise, outweigh everything else that I love about Radahn's character and purpose in the story. So I could see why he's up here. I totally understand why people love him. I wouldn't put him this high. I think he would still be in the top 10, though.
Well, let's break Radahn down. Radahn is the only boss in this playthrough where I use summons, but the summons manage to make the fight even better regardless.
That is true.
You actually get to summon various warriors during the battle with Radahn, and all of them are...
That's something I actually forgot to mention that I'll say right now. This is like the only fight in the game that fighting him with summons actually makes the fight better. Fighting him solo is still good, and I wanted to do this recent playthrough that I'm doing, fighting every boss solo, so that way I get the perspective of fighting it. Because in my first playthrough, I fought most of the bosses solo, but any of the ones that I felt like I didn't want to deal with, and the ones that I felt like were bullshit, I fought them with a summon. That's also a reason why I don't shit on people for using summons, because I've used summons. I think we all have used summons at some point. But now that I'm doing it solo, my opinions have kind of changed a little bit, so I get both of those perspectives.
From that build-up during the fight, which was that wacky Radahn festival. You've got the big jar guy, Blide, and many more. Charging at Radahn with all the boys while he shoots these laser beam arrows at you is one of the most hype feelings in any video game, period. You literally climb up a mountainous sandhill with all your phantom friends towards this menacing warrior sitting on a tiny horse. It manages to be one of the silliest scenes ever and one of the hardest scenes ever. Fighting Radahn with your buddies in the first phase is perfect because he's got a wide range of sweeping and combo attacks that feel perfect to dodge. And then when you get him down to around half health, he skyrockets into the air and hold on, cut the music. He reappears in the distance, becoming a fiery meatball just headed towards you at the speed of light. And if that isn't the best second phase entrance I've seen in a video game, I don't know what is.
Oh yeah.
I even think the time of day changes to the starry night, which is basically indicating that Radahn turned into the sun and charged at you.
Like I said, the story-wise, Radahn is the best character in Elden Ring. The nigga was so powerful that he literally held back aliens from crashing into the world of Elden Ring. How badass is that?
I remember when Elden Ring first launched, videos about this guy were just everywhere, making him an icon today. And for pre-patched Radahn, this attack would have probably one-shotted you.
Wait, what the fuck?
I think it still should. Honestly, I think they should unnerf him.
If I remember correctly, now it doesn't do as much damage. And I honestly regret how the Radahn nerf disabled this mechanic, but I kind of understand how getting one shot wasn't that fun. But pre-patch Radahn or not...
What do you mean, bro? Getting one shot by a nigga as an asteroid holding up the stars? That was totally appropriate. Nah, rebuff him, bro. Rebuff him. He needs that.
This boss's second phase is still mesmerizing. Instead of just being a great basic boss on its own, Radahn uses the full power of his gravity magic, gaining a ton of new attacks. Just fucking sending gravity waves at you and turning into a goddamn purple drill. This shit is on another level, man. A lot of people during Elden Ring's release were saying that Radahn was the hardest boss in this game, and I would have completely agreed. I always rush to Radahn when I get the chance to fight him, just because of how fun he is to fight, whether that be solo or with friends.
Yeah, boy!
Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
Every single time I see this cutscene... Oh shit, my mic fell. I'm sorry, everyone. My bad. My mic fell. I have my blanket over it to try to muffle the sound because this mic is really, really good. Yeah, every single time I see this cutscene, I get fucking goosebumps. Every time. It's that good. This is what you call presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Man, Godfrey kicks some fucking ass.
Now if that doesn't scream peak boss, I don't even know what does anymore.
True.
Godfrey sits atop the Elden Throne, being one of the last bosses you fight during the end of Elden Ring. And he sure brings the hype for being a memorable endgame boss. Godfrey's probably one of the only bosses that uses tarnished in a non-derogatory slur type of way. He respects the player, making me respect his fight even more. He's also one of those bosses that makes me never want to beat him and just endlessly dodge his attacks. Honestly, you know which ones I'm talking about. He is seriously that fun.
Godfrey's rhythm, man. Oh, there's a lot of criticism to levy at Elden Ring and its boss design and how so many of these bosses have like fucking 900 hit goddamn combos that feels like you're getting fucking Gomu Gomu Gatlinged. But Godfrey is the one exception to this. He does attack you a lot, but his rhythm is so perfectly paced that it's just so hard not to love him. And Hoaraloo does the same thing, but even better, arguably. Well, I don't know. I think I might like Godfrey more than Hoaraloo, but both of them, they're great together. It's, like, I don't know, like lemon and lime and a Sprite, man. Great combo.
It's just a constant alternating battle with Godfrey's axe swings, foot stomps, and your counterattacks that feels like a fucking rhythm game in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Godfrey is also another boss that incentivizes
right
jumping, like Godric. It's perfectly paced and perfectly balanced. The sounds of the cracking earth and the soundtrack, mixed with the setting of the flaming Erdtree, turns this first phase into a thrill.
Like I said, we could talk about Elden Ring's fucking amazing soundtrack all day. But it is something that needs to be mentioned because the boss fight soundtrack and the songs add so much presence to the fight itself and elevates it so much higher.
Speaking of phases, Godfrey's technically got like 3 phases. He's got his first phase, then his second phase, which is while he's still in...
He actually technically has 4 phases, because Yeah, he has his regular phase. He has his phase right before he goes into Horaloo, where he has his wind attacks and it slightly changes his timings. And then he has that same phase again when he's Horaloo as well.
Godfrey form, and then his third WWE wrestler phase. But I honestly like the first phase better than his second, due to its consistency. The introduction to the AoE stomps in his second phase make them a lot more satisfying to dodge, and it ramps up the intensity greatly. Rolling these cross-map AoE shockwaves are scarily fun to perform. Let's talk about the third phase, where Godfrey just fucking rips his giant lion off of his back, subsequently turning into this wrestler dude straight out of God of War. And this shit jump-scared me when I first fought this dude. Literally right when his phase transition cutscene ends, he's programmed to always open up with this delayed charged grab attack. I literally passed out when it hit me, and I died, just like that.
Fair. That's one of those things, though. You ever have that moment where you're fighting a phase 2 of a boss and you're just waiting for whatever shit they do for the first time, and you're just like, I can't even be mad that happened. That shit was cool as fuck. Horaloo, the first time he hit me with that fucking grab, bro, I was like, nigga, let's go, bruh.
Axe is gone, and he introduces an entire new moveset, with it revolving around physical brute strength attacks. Godfrey goes full psycho mode here, and it looks like he's done putting up with your shit, taking the gloves off. He snatches you with a bear hug, and then leaps up 50 feet, smashing you down at a bit.
Bro gives you the Bane backcracker, bro, like you were fucking, Christian Bale.
Miles per hour. Kind of like with Sister Free from DS3, it's actually fun to be grabbed for once, just to see the animation. But yeah, this boss has legendary status and will never be forgotten. He's one of my favorite FromSoft bosses ever.
No, now I'm sad. I really hope Melania's not number 1. Moog is the best. Yeah, I gotta disagree, bruh. I gotta disagree. Moog is the best fight in Elden Ring. I'll hear him out though. I mean, second. What can I say? Go on. Spit your spiel.
Moog has my favorite soundtrack in Elden Ring, and that's saying a lot, considering the large amount of amazing soundtracks in this game.
True.
His theme alone would carry him into the top 5.
True.
That's how disgustingly good it is. You could definitely...
Easy peasy. If I ever meet a motherfucker in my life who says Moog's theme isn't one of the greatest fucking pieces of music ever composed, I might punch him square in the jaw on instinct, not gonna lie.
Argue that Moog could be the best boss in the game, but I'm saving that for you-know-who. Every time I fight this dude, I just get this zesty-ass tingling feeling because I'm just gonna have a blast having this showdown with Moog. Everything about Moog is just so metal, and his character design is unmatched. You could probably already tell this, but I know next to nothing about Elden Ring's lore. But I do know that Moog has done some despicable...
I mean... You might want to catch up on that, bruh.
Things, let's just say that. He's got this giant trident that has some delayed behaviors, but once you get used to it, it's the most satisfying thing in the game to just dance around. Moog also has a wide variety of blood and blood flame incantations in his bloody arsenal. He can swipe his claw and create this delayed claw explosion, and he can also literally summon a portal to another dimension to get some blood and throw it on you. That has got to be one of the best little details in this game. Another insanely creative mechanic Moog has is his Latin countdown shit. He counts down from 3 while placing hexes on you, creating the suspense of impending doom. Fighting Moog in this first phase while this devilish medieval tone plays in the background, and while he's menacingly counting down your death, is what does it for me.
Every time I hear this theme, bro, I start geeking, not gonna lie. This theme is fucking legitimately probably in the top 10 of my favorite songs ever, period. Not even just in the video game. I would legitimately put this as like, if I was to compose like a soundtrack of my favorite songs ever, this might be like number 2. It's really that good. Like Godfrey's theme, or not Godfrey, sorry, Godric's theme is also very much up there. I love Godric's theme, but just listen to this, bruh.
No other boss has a theme and tone that competes with Mohg. You also might have noticed that Mohg isn't immune to bleed. You'd think that the Lord of Blood himself would be immune to hemorrhaging attacks, but in fact he's actually weak to them. And there's a crazy explanation to this supposed oversight. Mohg serves a god that craves wounds, and the point of his character and people that serve him is to worship pain and obviously blood. Now after saying that, Mohg gets this disgusting pleasure out of bleeding. He even obtains—
I didn't know that, but if that's the case, that does perfectly make sense. It's kind of like he's the flagellant from Darkest Dungeon, right? Where they derive their strength from that pain of that penance of blood or some shit. I don't know, let's just move on. What the fuck am I saying?
The first time I fought this dude, I got annihilated by this attack, but I couldn't even be mad. The way they deal with the balance is honestly fair too. You can either get the item that deals with the curse, or just tough it out and chug 3 flasks. Either way, it still looks badass. And in his second phase, he grows feathery wings and gets some new attacks. But the second phase is basically using everything that you've learned in his first phase to adapt and overcome his second phase, which I really enjoy. He starts to just ejaculate blood flame everywhere, but it doesn't really do anything though, it's more for cinematic value. Whenever I'm done with this fight,
I disagree with that point. The blood fire... What the fuck? The blood fire actually serves a very important purpose in the boss fight, because it kind of... Mohg in his second form, which is like one of the greatest things I love about this boss fight, is that his second form basically controls where you're allowed to fight him in a way that's really dynamic. I usually don't like it when bosses have mechanics that force you to fight in unfavorable circumstances, but Mohg is always fair with the player. He's like one of the few bosses in this game that actually respects the player and like puts him on his level. He always does everything in a way, you can always react to what he does. He's very slow and deliberate with his attacks, and he never pulls his punches as well. So you have to learn how to fight him legitimately, and you get majorly rewarded for doing so. And that's why I love him, is that he has the best design philosophy of a boss fight, where if you learn how to fight him, he will reward you for doing so in a very unique way. But he doesn't reward you so much to the point where it's not like I learned the boss moveset so I instantly win. It's like you learn the boss moveset, but do you know how to fight it in unfavorable circumstances? Or do you know how to turn a disadvantaged state into your own victory, essentially? That's why I fucking love Mohg. Also, I mean, just look at this guy. He's fucking dope.
I just wish I could reset my save file and do it all over again. It's that good. It's not quite the best though, and I think you know who's coming next.
Cap to that. He's definitely the best fight in the game. I don't agree that Malenia is better.
That's right, it's Malenia. You either hate her or you love her, but in my opinion, I think she's the best boss in Elden Ring, which is an extremely tough task to pull off, since this game has some of the best—
We'll let him speak. I don't hate Malenia. I'll say that as a preface. I don't hate Malenia, but there's shit I want to talk about her, and I will definitely talk about her again later and go into more detail about why I like her, but I also am very, very frustrated with her.
Best bosses that FromSoft has ever made. Although Malenia might not go down as the most universally liked boss in gaming, I 100% think she'll go down as one of the most iconic bosses in gaming.
Absolutely.
Malenia had successfully broken the internet when people were first fighting her. Every streamer, YouTube—
Whoa, holy shit, I've never seen this before. Really? Hold on. Let me see.
Malenia had success—
329 million attempts? Holy fuck! God damn! Even more than Margit. I mean, Margit makes sense. Yeah. Damn. 329 million attempts. I mean, that makes sense, though. She is the hardest boss in the game. I shouldn't really be that surprised.
Successfully broken the internet when people were first fighting her. Every streamer, YouTuber, and even myself were trying to beat the proclaimed hardest boss ever. Everything about her is just so memorable. From her intro cutscene, her difficulty, and her voice lines.
Yep.
She was born with Scarlet Rot, causing her mind and body to become decayed and rotted off, creating this crazy interesting character design. But enough with the boring stuff, let's talk about the fight. The player enters the roots of the Holly Tree, and sitting next to the roots, you find Malenia. And then— oh shit. Yo, I'll be back. 1 second.
Oh my god.
Alright guys, I'm back. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. Malenia straight up tells you she has never known defeat, which is probably not the most promising thing to hear right before fighting a boss. But as the hardest boss in Elden Ring, I wouldn't doubt her. Don't let her size fool you, because she packs a punch. Every move is just combo after combo after grab after combo after thrust attack. And every move she throws at you, you gotta dodge perfectly. And on top of all of that, she heals herself every time you get hit. And then she also has that one move that I'm sure you're all aware of. and that is Waterfowl. Waterfowl is something you learn to appreciate over time. I know when I was trying to beat her for the first time, I wanted to rip my eyes out and delete this shit game, but over the years of experience I've had with Elden Ring, learning, mastering, and flawlessly rolling Waterfowl as well as her entire moveset is the most gratifying experience in the game. Finally getting that flawless Waterfowl is so worth it, and if you haven't already, you should try to. Another fun mechanic you can perform in Malenia's fight is parrying. Parrying a boss hasn't felt this good since Gwyn. And parrying bosses in Elden Ring is a little different though, since most of the time it takes 2 or 3 parries. But this just makes them even more rewarding in the end. Once you learn to parry every single one of Malenia's attacks, the fight will be much more manageable and much more fun too. Finally, let's discuss Malenia's second and final phase. She takes off her clothes and... wait, another one? For free? Okay, I'm back. Malenia shows her true rotten goddess form, only gaining a couple of new attacks, but those attacks she gains are so good. She also changes up her moveset, making the player adapt to Scarlet Rot and different combo ending moves. Not only that, but she becomes like 2 times more aggressive and she gets her Rotten Clone Rush attack, which is downright insane. Fighting her while this amazing score is playing transforms this fight into the most intense and threatening battle with extreme stakes, and if you die, you gotta beat that long ass first phase again, which is not even a punishment because I get to fight Malenia even more. Her theme is so special because it has this constant tone of descending and despair. When I fight Malenia with the song on, I get this indescribable feeling of dread, which makes me love the fight even more.
Sorry about that, my mic fell once again. I need to improve my setup, I understand that. But, I mean, what can we say? Well, you know what? I'll let him finish, and then I'll say my piece, and then we'll be out of here. True. I mean, it's Elden Ring. Best soundtrack, Malenia's theme, another fucking easy peasy, like top 5 best song I've ever heard in my life. It's amazing. It's godlike. I can't. Yeah. Godlike theme.
Never has beating a boss been this rewarding. Malenia has left a legacy on everyone who's beaten her, and whether it being good or bad, you have to admit, it was iconic. She is the fundamental and central icon of From Software's Souls-like genre of video games, and she serves as a learning point for anyone who plays video games, whether they are veterans or newcomers. She's the lifeblood of that unmatchable feeling of accomplishment for overcoming an insurmountable challenge of this scale. Malenia will always be my favorite boss in this game. That is until the DLC comes out. Who knows what we'll find there.
We'll see.
But yeah, that's it. I guess Malenia is pretty good.
Versus me? Me? I'm the best boss in Elden Ring?
Hey, thanks for watching my video until the end. Sorry it was very long, but I still had fun making it. I got a lot of support on my last video, and I just wanted to say thanks. If you disagree or want to correct any of my points made in this video, feel free to do so in the comment section below and I will try to respond. At the end of the day, these are just my personal opinions, and I can totally understand if you have different takes. Having different takes is just the beauty of opinions. But thanks for watching. I'll probably do a separate ranking of the DLC bosses when they come out, so yeah. Elden Ring's a pretty good game. Bye!
Well, thank you, Critter Farts. That was pretty good. I would agree with most of his opinions. Now, before I end this video off, we gotta tackle Malenia. So, what do I feel about Malenia? Well, I've only fought her twice. In fact, I love to say it, guys, I actually soloed her for the first time today. Right before, this is actually kind of the inspiration for why I wanted to do this video, because I have a lot of thoughts about Malenia, and there's a whole section when I get to her in the Demo Man video that I would just dedicate to her boss mechanics, everything about her, because she's the most interesting boss in the game, regardless of if you think she's good or not. I don't know how to feel about Malenia. I think I'm leaning towards I like her, but she's just does too much shit. I finally soloed her for the first time today, and keep in mind, especially in my last couple attempts, the bitch was throwing out every single fucking special move in her arsenal, like, over and over and over again, and it was really pissing me off. But now that I'm able to consistently, like, dodge Waterfowl Dance, and I know when to deal with it and when to expect it, I don't hate her nearly as much. Sorry, I'm adjusting my mic. Yeah, the setup kind of sucks, but whatever. It is what it is. Regardless, Melania, I want to put Melania up that high too. I would love to put her as being the best fight in the game, but the fact that she just has so much shit, too much shit to deal with, honestly brings her down, and I could not put her as the best fight in the game. She's nearly perfect, almost there, but for some reason From Software really thought that the best idea to make a boss is to make a boss that honestly feels like is cheating when you fight her, because she's the only boss in the game that gets to literally cancel out of stagger pressure for free, and that really annoys me. Not to mention the fact that predicting Waterfowl Dance is not always the easiest thing to do. You can predict it, you can prepare for it, and you can dodge it consistently 100% of the time if you're good enough. But learning how to dodge Waterfowl Dance consistently is honestly kind of aggravating, especially at close range. It just takes so much trial and error to be able to deal with her that I can't fault anyone from hating her or just resulting to using summons, because that's a totally legit thing to do. Regardless, now that I've beaten her and I've gotten, it feels like I have a big fucking weight off my shoulders as doing this huge gaming achievement as beating Melania solo. I really do like her, and I will say that getting over and beating her, it kind of reminded me of when I beat Getting Over It, is that you've done this insurmountable challenge of frustration, and at the end, it feels like I said, you have a huge weight off your shoulders. So I think I would personally put Melania very high on a tier list. I may make my own boss tier list at some point, but I could not put her as number one. I don't hate her. I don't think she's the worst boss in the game, but I do think that people who've criticized her and criticized a lot of things with her are totally valid, in that I think she is overtuned. But she's not bad. But regardless, that's my thoughts. Yeah, overall good video. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to critterfart. This is a very, very good video. Production. It was funny. Good shit, man. I agree with most of your takes. I think you were spitting, bro. I think you were cooking. You were preaching and all that and this and that and the other. All right, I'll cut the yap and end this video off. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I got new videos down the pike. Don't know when they're coming out. Don't ask me. Goodbye.